Hello, everyone. I'm Jose Betancourt, and this is another episode of the Anything Podcast. I want to talk about my current situation and how busy I am. I'm a busy individual. Granted, a lot of us are busy. So, when I say I am truly grateful that you took the time to listen to my podcast, I truly mean it. But in my current situation, I'm probably the busiest I've been ever. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a family man. I have siblings in New York City. I have friends in New York City. I have two podcasts, a YouTube channel. I have a hobby of taking photos, photography. I'm a budding photographer, or I'm an early enthusiast. I don't want to call myself a photographer because there's so much that goes into photography. I don't want to insult the profession by saying I'm a photographer. I'm learning. And also, I'm in a current situation. I'm doing a new project with RageWorks. They're letting me. We partnered up so I can put some of my content on the website. So I'm very thankful for that. And that's on top of my regular website, talkingaboutgames.com. And as I stated, I have two podcasts: the Anything Podcast and the Postgame Report, which is about video games. So I'm a busy individual, but now I have another project that is the biggest I've ever done and and it's the scariest thing I've ever done. Now, I'm not going to get into details of what that project is because, out of respect for the individual I'm working with, I want to keep things very private. But all of my skill sets that I've learned throughout the 10 years of podcasting and the few years I've began taking up photography, all that is being put into good use now. I'm using my skill sets to possibly make money, and I'm using it in a way that I didn't think that I was going to use it ever. Like, this opportunity is like truly way out of left field. And that's what I want to talk about in this particular episode of the Anything Podcast is, when do you take an opportunity when it's presented to you? And how do you spot these opportunities? Because I truly believe, and I tell my son this all the time, that there are opportunities that occur and that are presented to us, whether big or small. They happen every freaking day. Like, the the notion that every step leads to a different path. Now, I know that sounds like a fortune cookie and very philosophical, but I truly believe that every step has a ripple effect and it branches out into different paths. And I'm a big video gamer, so I think of things in a video game sense. And depending on which opportunity you take, it is going to have that butterfly effect where step one leads into step two and three, and so on and so on. But each step might lead to a different direction. And the current opportunity that occurred to me actually happened on Twitter, and a friend of mine, she brought this up to my attention, and it was a nonchalant conversation on Twitter. But something told me, you know what? Out of that conversation, something else popped up. The conversation totally changed into podcasting. And I've been doing this for 10 years, so I consider myself an expert. And it's just amazing. It's amazing how when you decide, okay, this is worth taking a few minutes out of my time to look into, because that's exactly what I did. I told my wife, I was like, you know what? There's something about this opportunity that I should really look into it, and I should just go with it. Something's telling me to go with this. And I took the leap of faith and I went with it. And so far, things are looking so freaking awesome. The opportunity to use my skill set in podcasting, my knowledge in podcasting, and even my some people say I'm talented with photography. You know what? You can't teach a good eye, and everyone has told me, because I used to take a lot of photos with my iPhone for years. So taking photos is nothing new, and I used to take it in high school. Uh, so when they say you have a talented eye, you have the knack for taking good pictures. So I felt like, you know what, people keep saying this. Let me just take it to a new level and buy a DSLR camera and let me learn the damn camera. And I made sure I took it upon myself to learn every freaking button, every function of my camera. I have two of them, Nikon D7100 and a Panasonic Lumix G7. I basically, every minute I had for the first month that I had these particular cameras, I made sure that I sat down with them, studied every freaking button, every function, customized it to my liking. And I would watch TV, sit down, and try to maneuver through the buttons without looking. Because as a photographer, one thing I learned, if you're there fiddling around with the buttons, you're going to miss the opportunity to take a really good photo. Now, once again, I'm an enthusiast. I'm learning, and I like to learn quick, but I'm still learning. The art of photography is one that you just don't pick up and all of a sudden call yourself a freaking photographer. So, what I do know and what I have learned in photography, I've been using that as well in this particular situation. So I'm using so much that I learned throughout the years, even things that I learned in my elevator apprenticeship, how to organize, how to keep things organized, keep my work organized, is how I kept my podcast for 10 years organized. At one time, I was doing 4 podcasts a week. Imagine that. Some people can't even do one for a consistent basis for 1 year. I was doing 4. So everything I've learned throughout the years, all the mistakes, I've learned from my mistakes. We have all learned from our mistakes. At least, hopefully, most people learn from their mistakes. But you don't make mistakes without trying, right? So I figured I'd give this a shot. I have nothing to lose as long as I'm not putting anything financially into this situation, which I'm not. And my talents are truly appreciated. They're being used in a positive way. And it's when you have that positivity and you see your work being appreciated and you seeing what your work can accomplish, that inspires you to do more. But this time I learned, because years ago I tried to do way more than I was wearing myself thin and I burnt myself out. But now that I'm 44 years old, and because of that situation, burning myself out, I learned how to pace myself and how to be patient and know when to use a lot of my energy, a lot of my talents, and when to hold back. And I've been a whole lot happier, a whole lot more consistent. But I wouldn't be having this great of a time if I didn't decide, hey, this is an opportunity and I should take it. And it's not easy. I tell my son all the time, dude, you're going to make some bad decisions. Hopefully, they're not too bad where you can't recover from them, because I believe we all can recover from a bad decision. Now, with social networks, you can make a really bad decision with just 140 characters, and that could really screw you up for a long time. So, my son growing up, he's only 14. His decisions could, and this goes for, the current generation of kids growing up, their mistakes could be thrown out there for everyone to freaking see. So they have it really tough. But now that I'm, Twitter, I began using Twitter when it first popped up, and I've made some mistakes. I've said some things that I wish I could have taken back, but unfortunately, you can't when it's in social networks. But thankfully, it was nothing that would risk, spoiling or damaging my reputation as an individual. Thankfully, but it doesn't take much nowadays for people to like get on you. So I was worried. I was like, you know what? If I jump into the situation, what's going to happen if I screw up and things don't work out? How will it affect my status within social networks? And, I had to think of all this stuff. But then sometimes we're our worst enemy and we can think ourselves out of a situation, or we can think so much that we create negative situations and imagine that these situations are going to happen before anything even actually happens. So mentally, I mean, the mind is so strong. Emotions are so freaking strong. They can spoil things for you before they ever happen. So I was really afraid. But then like I said, I woke up one day and I told my wife, I was like, babe, I gotta give this a shot. I have a feeling there's an opportunity that I should not pass up. And if I do and things work out, somebody else jumps into my position and it works out, I'm going to be freaking pissed off. And it's all going to be my fault. So she was like, all right. And wow, I'm learning things I didn't think I was going to learn, but I've always wanted to learn. And what I have learned in 10 years, I'm utilizing it. And as I said, out of respect, and that's something else I learned back in the day, I would throw out everything I was about to do. Oh, I'm going to do this in my podcast, and this year's going to be amazing. Just you wait and see. And I would, on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, just blurt out everything I had in my mind. And I wouldn't go through with it, or other people would be like, yo, that's a great idea, and go ahead and use it. And it wouldn't be that good of an idea, or things just didn't pan out. That happens too, a lot. So this time around, I'm going to be more secretive, wait for things to develop. And when the opportunity comes where I can announce what I'm doing, I'll be more than freaking happy to announce it. But I just wanted to give you guys an update because I figured it would fall hand in hand with the topic I was bringing up. And that is, when do you take an opportunity and how do you see an opportunity present itself? Because we all envision these opportunities differently. So I believe in that branching. We all, for those gamers, you're familiar with these RPGs where you build up a certain skill set and it branches out to another power set and blah, blah, blah. And I believe in branching out. And when you branch out, you'll be surprised at what type of knowledge you're gaining. It could be something totally out of left field, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, why didn't I learn this shit before? Like with me and my photography. I wish I would have kept it up after high school. But I decided, acting and women were the top priority, in football. But that's part of learning. And you learn every day. And just because I'm 44 years old, I took it upon myself to, at the age of 43, to start learning, to truly start learning the aspects of photography. And even though I've been podcasting for 10 years, I'm always practicing. I'm always practicing my approach, my quality. I'm always looking for ways to make my podcast better as far as sound, as far as how I speak, my dialogue, my vocabulary, my accent. I have a big New York accent, and sometimes it will show. I try not to say a lot, or if you listen to some podcast, you'll hear that a lot. Sometimes I just don't say anything and I lead into the next sentence, or I'll stop or I won't For example, you'll hear it in this particular episode. I won't complete a sentence without pausing for a quick second. And that's so I don't say or you know. It gives me a quick second to think or a quick second to regain my thoughts. So I'm always trying to advance. And that's what we all should be doing. No matter what you're doing, as long as it's something you're loving, something that you truly want to do, because you just never know. You just never know when that particular skill set is going to be useful in your life. And we all have a comfort level. Believe me, I have mine. But sometimes you need to chip away from that comfort level and just raise your ceiling. Raise your ceiling of learning, of doing better, of doing new activities. I have friends who began working out a few years ago, lost tons of weight. My friend Paris, the dude looks like a freaking bodybuilder now. And he decided one day he was pissed off at how he looked, and now he's freaking Mr. Adrian Adonis, so you just never know. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up this episode of the Anything Podcast. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them on my Twitter, which is @JoseVBeta, and leave me a review on iTunes or on YouTube. And as always, I thank you for your time. I'm Jose Betancourt. Talk to you soon.